Wild new video purports to show Kyiv's military blitzing Russian forces in northern Ukraine, as its forces claimed over 1,300 of Putin's troops were taken out in a single day. The footage of the strikes, shared on the Defense Ministry's X channel, shows various drone-delivered explosions at different locations captured by unmanned aerial vehicle UAV cameras. The artillery of the Heart at DPSU UA Brigade demonstrates impressive precision and power, even under challenging weather conditions. A description accompanying the video reads, "In the Vovchansk direction, border guards successfully delivered several powerful strikes against enemy positions." In a separate post, the ministry also shared the latest estimates of Russian battlefield losses, as reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on December 12th. It estimates that Russian leader Vladimir Putin has lost 758,730 troops in the country since the full-scale invasion began in February 2022, including 1,390 casualties sustained in the past day. Ukraine's forces have previously said their tallies are approximate and clarified earlier this year that estimates of Russian losses include personnel who are injured as well as killed. The latest December 12th figures also claim Russia has also lost 9,532 tanks, 19,644 armored fighting vehicles, 31,127 vehicles and fuel tanks, 21,072 artillery systems, 1,253 multiple launch rocket systems, 1,023 air defense systems, 369 the airplanes, 329 helicopters, 20,111 UAVs, drones, 28 ships and boats, and 1 submarine since the start of the conflict. In a single month, Ukrainian forces neutralized 37 mechanized Russian assault attempts near Malaya Lochnia, transforming predicted attack routes into killing zones. Here, the Russian offensive has faltered disastrously, leaving their forces struggling to hold ground as Ukrainian troops continue to gain momentum amid growing unrest. Civilians in Kursk, caught in the crossfire, have intensified their protests, forcing Putin to fire the governor of Kursk in a dramatic response to these mountain failures. The third wave of the Russian counteroffensive in Kursk aimed to execute a pincer maneuver towards Malaya Lochnia from 2 axes, intending to cut off many Ukrainian soldiers in the northern part of the Kursk salient. Russian forces sought to replicate their initial success from Korano by using mechanized assault units to penetrate into the Ukrainian rear rapidly. However, after nearly 2 months of daily assaults, their offensive failed to make any further significant territorial gains, and the efforts to capture Malaya Lochnia ultimately collapsed. Russian tactics involved deploying large mechanized assault groups that use the full speed of their vehicles along paved roads to bypass Ukrainian front lines and quickly reach rear positions, dismounting to attack from unexpected angles. These tactics had previously succeeded, allowing Russia to capture Zneny Shliak and collapse Ukrainian defenses to its north. However, the repetitive nature of these counterattacks since August allowed Ukrainian forces to analyze and predict Russian strategies. Meanwhile, this insight enabled them to adapt and prepare for the third wave of counterattacks, significantly reducing their effectiveness. Ukrainian forces correctly anticipated Malaya Lochnia as the next target of the Russian offensive, allowing them to fortify the area and heavily mine the roads, which effectively eliminated countless Russian mechanized assaults over the past month. Unlike the terrain near Novorovo, the roads to Malaya Lochnia are flanked by elevated positions near Novoivanivka and Pogrebki, giving Ukrainians a crucial advantage in detecting and targeting Russian units with artillery. Drones provided continuous surveillance for rapid responses. This layered defense allowed Ukrainian tanks to intercept Russian columns, neutralizing mechanized units and halting the offensive. Repeated waves of Russian attacks yielded only minor territorial gains near Novoivanka, where small groups of Russian soldiers briefly held positions. However, these gains came at a steep cost, as heavy losses in troops and equipment severely depleted Russian offensive capabilities, creating opportunities for Ukrainian counterattacks. Combat footage from the area shows a Ukrainian Bradley infantry fighting vehicle using its 25mm autocannon to suppress Russian positions. The suppression allowed Ukrainian troops to dismount and effectively overrun the Russian-held positions, ultimately reclaiming control of Novoivanka. As the Russian offensive slowed and devolved into slow grinding battles that left most villages in the area destroyed, widespread social discontent increased amongst Russian civilians, particularly refugees from the conflict zones. The fighting displaced nearly 150,000 people, or almost 10% of the Kursk region's population. Many of these refugees expressed frustration with the Russian civilian and military administration's failure to provide adequate housing and support. At the same time, they were displaced, as their homes and belongings were left behind and actively destroyed by the ongoing battle. Putin recognized that growing social discontent among the refugee population could spread if the situation, particularly regarding the offensive and housing issues, weren't considered stabilizing. To address this, he dismissed Kursk governor Alexis Smirnov, blaming him for Russia's failure to respond effectively to the Ukrainian incursion and its aftermath, replacing him with Alexander Kinchtin. The dismissal was delayed for months, as the Russian government downplayed the impact of the Ukrainian offensive. However, the continued failure to eliminate the Kursk salient eventually forced the political leadership to acknowledge the severity of the situation and remove him from office. Overall, as the Russians failed to adapt their tactics from their initial assaults, Ukrainians were able to organize a strong defense and effectively countered the Russian approach. This led to the Russian offensive stalling and falling short of its objectives, forcing the Russian government to take more drastic measures, including replacing the governor of Kursk. Smirnov's dismissal is intended as a short-term solution to alleviate social discontent. However, the underlying issues caused by the Ukrainian incursion in Kursk, along with ongoing civilian struggles, persist. Continued Russian failure in the Kursk region is likely to exacerbate these problems further, escalating social unrest